she says tech is the future. People have been saying tech is the future. I think sense is the future.
Ooh, I like that. Many times, people don't think about their capacity. It also goes back to them finding themselves. But what can you really do?
Education is not just a system. It's a lifeline.
People are excelling in things that we thought were ridiculous.
Don't neglect the world outside the classroom.
Wow.
The only school that offered that was my school in France, and I said, this is where I'm going.
Be okay with it. Nothing is wrong with you. There is a point you get to where you begin to understand that you need to find the intersection between what you love and what does the world need.
What are some of the common mistakes that you think that people do or make in the process of trying to choose a course?
Choose for your future. Choose for vision, not for survival.
This is TINE Africa Podcast. The new sound of international education in Africa.
Hello again and welcome to another episode of TINE Africa Podcast. This is where we talk about everything that has to do with international education in the continent of Africa. My name is Louis Adekola and I am the regular host on this podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about something really interesting because it's a conversation that we need to consistently have, because the concept of study abroad is not one that is new. It is one that we have talked about a lot of time. People have studied abroad, stayed abroad, lived abroad, gone to other places, come back to the country to live and to work. However, in recent times, we have discovered or we've realized that there's a lot of demand, for study abroad, people who want to improve their capacity to get jobs or to even to improve their capacity when they're back in the country. And so this is one of the things that has given birth to what in Nigeria we call the JAPA. But one of the things that we talk about is when you decide to do this concept of student mobility to other country, you need to do it with sense. And that is one thing that we call JAPA with sense. So today, we are going to be discussing that, but not only in the sense of looking to study abroad, but also from the point of choosing a desirable course, one that creates a sustainable livelihood for you after graduation and helps you to become the best of yourself. Today, we're going to be talking about choosing the most lucrative course for your study abroad mission. And I'm joined today by two amazing personalities. These are people that I've known for quite some time, people that I've learned from, people that I've, you would get to know more about this as we go on in this conversation. My first guest is a very good friend of mine. Her name is Okpeyemi Adetola. She is the regional manager for West Africa at Colorado State University in the United States of America. Okpe, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. And you look so regal.
Oh, thank you so much. I like what you said earlier when I was talking about work. Is this not a lot? And you're like, how do we know that I'm a prince?
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't say that in my introduction. Maybe I should start saying that, Prince Louis Adekola. But thank you. Really nice to have you here, Okwe. I hope we have a really great time today.
Looking forward to. Thank you.
And my second guest on this episode is no other person than Juyin Benson, founder and Chief Executive Officer at Temploy, Nigeria. She's someone that has studied in the same university with me, but more of that later. Hi, Juyin.
Hello, Louis. Prince Louis.
Ooh, that's nice. Love
Very
that.
nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Very nice to have you here as well. Okay, so without further ado, let's just get started, right? I was talking about you, Juyin, and I said that you studied in the same university with me. So you are someone who have an experience, like studying abroad, and you're back in Nigeria and you work here and all of that. Tell us a bit more about, just to get started. I like to break the ice, by sharing experience, because for me, I think journeys and experiences are very important. When people listen to us, they need to know who we are, where we're from, the kind of experiences that we've had. So I want you to start by telling us, a little bit more about yourself. I know that I said you're the founder and CEO, but I know there is so much more to that. So tell us a bit more about yourself and your experience as a Nigerian student that has gone to study abroad, and, maybe like some really exciting things that happened or some memorable experience that you had.
All right, so I'm Juyin Benson. I'm a human resources and communications consultant, and I try to balance both as much as I can. I started my career in PricewaterhouseCoopers, where I worked for about 7 years before I went to France to study for the first time. I studied communication and change management, and then I came back to Nigeria and started working in the area of comms, and then went back, this time on a Juyin scholarship, to study media practice for development and social change. And now, since I've been back in the country, came back in 2016, continued working as a communications consultant. And then one day I was minding my business, just driving, and I got this idea to start a HR company. That's what is known today as Temploy. And what we do is to provide opportunities for young people to develop employability skills early, start to build their work experience, find out what they like, what they don't like, and where they want to position themselves in terms of their career. So we do training, temporary employment services, permanent employment services, and provide general HR advisory services to young people.
That's really good. I must say that I'm really proud of the work that you do, because when I went to study and I came back, we met after I returned to the country, and I think it was my welcome back event from Juyin, and I met you, and first there was that camaraderie of Juyin scholars, and then of course Sussex scholars, graduates, and all of that. But when you started talking about the work that you do, because I know that a lot of people have studied either in the country or outside of the country, but still struggling to get, jobs to do. But you have taken that upon yourself, that mission to create a better future for people, even when sometimes it can be very daunting. So thank you for the amazing work that you already do.
Thank you.
Now, I want to tweak that question a bit slightly. Of course, Okwe, I wanted to start by telling us a bit about yourself. Again, stories, impact, experience, and all of that. But also from the lens of someone who work in the sector of engaging students who want to study abroad. What has been your experience with people who come to speak to you, or people that you speak to, in terms of the kind of course that they want to study, and how do you think that influences their decision or choice?
I wasn't a child who wanted to be a doctor, who wanted to be all those nice stuff that people say when they ask them. But if there's one thing I've always been very connected to, I've always been very deeply reflective. And I've always said I wanted to live a life that truly counts, which is to make impact. And so growing up, a typical, when they hear you study education, they're looking at you like, what do you want to become in your life? What do you mean by education? But I knew that it was the closest way to have a direct impact on people. So for me, I've always been very clear about the life I want to live. I may not be able to tell you, okay, this is exactly what I want to do, but I know that I want to live my life serving people. I want to live my life seeing people thrive, right, in whatever endeavor they want to go into. So being in Colorado State University, to answer your question, my experience working with students has been very fulfilling, extremely fulfilling. Like I said, I've always known it's never going to be about doing a job that will pay my bills. I have to enjoy what I do, right? So it's extremely beautiful, understanding and getting to realize that education is not just a system, it's a lifeline. It is one singular decision that can change the trajectory of anybody's life.
Absolutely.
Right? So I'm getting into the place where I recognize myself as somebody who is standing right beside them to help them grab that lifeline with direction and purpose. I think is the most meaningful part of the job. And all in all, it is a very loud world right now. There are trends, there are societal pressures, there is all sort of advice from counselors, parents, and all sort of things. And a typical student is literally barraged with so much information. I think where my role also comes in is also not just providing information, but helping them filter that information. So genuinely, I think overall it's been extremely fulfilling.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much. I love what you said about impact and you being a very reflective person, someone who is very committed to, impacting people and holding their hands. And I think that from my experience, that's what sets people apart in the work that we do. You can already distinguish between those who are doing it because that's their day-to-day job. That's what they have to do to make money. But, sometimes you can also experience, you meet someone and this person sees me. This person sees me. That point you get to, and then you meet a counselor, you meet a representative, and you can say this. You can tell that this person actually sees me. That makes a lot of difference. Before we dig deep into this conversation, I just want to quickly ask you both. Did you study education? You said.
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay. So that's great. So you studied education, and I want to ask you one question. Now, you studied education. Was that how you found yourself in this field, or did you have a different journey? If we can talk about that quickly, then I have one more for you, Juyin.
Honestly, I think I stumbled into this sector. Okay. I wouldn't say that but I definitely know that everything is plan, yeah. Purpose. You see, even before I got into the industry full-fledged, I was working in Nigeria University of Technology and Management.
Okay.
How did I find myself here?
Purpose. That's very simple and clear, and nothing beats purpose, to be honest. Nothing beats that. Juyin, my sharp question to you before I go into the main discussion is, you talked about you going to France to study, and then you went to the UK to study. Your decision to study these courses, because you talked about your course in France, was that your bachelor's?
No.
It was a master's.
Yeah.
Okay. Though that course is not one that I've heard of, before. I know the comms part of it, but the rest is I don't know. And then the course that you studied in the UK is also, I knew about it because of my work in Sussex. I don't know anywhere else where that course exists. What led you to choosing those courses, even though they are not the conventional international relations?
It's a really interesting story. So like I said, I used to work in PwC and I used to do a lot of HR consulting. So one of the things we do under we used to call it people program and change management. So one of the things we did then was a lot of communication and change management. So we go to organizations, we're doing projects on maybe business process design or HR or organizational effectiveness. I know those sound very abstract to you, but they're just, basically projects that help an organization to improve. And when you're doing that, because most of these projects are generally quite organization-wide, meaning it's going to impact everybody. We go in with a team that communicates what we are planning to do, what the impact is going to be, what is in it for the employees and all that. So there's a lot of communication that goes on while all the, professional work is going on. So through newsletters, we're doing surveys to get the views of employees and all that. And then managing that change, because when you go to an organization and you're implementing a change, you don't just assume that people are just going to join you on it. So carrying them along. So that's where the change management part comes in. Yeah. And so it's a very intentional way of actually carrying the people along, ensuring that they understand what is being done, why it's being done, and how it impacts them. And so having done that for a while, one day I just went on Google and just typed in communication and change management. Wow. The only school that offered that was my school in France. And I said, this is where I'm going. Oh. And that was how I chose the first course, right? The second course, I had always wanted to study communication for development. So when I was in secondary school, we used to have people from British Council come to my school to talk about, educational opportunities, kind of what you guys do. And then I remember them telling us, not just about the opportunities, for bachelor's degrees, but they also told us about masters, which, I thought was weird. Why would you be telling secondary school students about masters? But they told us about the Juyin scholarship. And that was as far back as 1997. And I never forgot that. And I told myself, one day I'm going to get this scholarship. So in the course of my studies, I studied mass comm at Unilag. And, I did a course called Communication for Development. And I found it very, very interesting. It was a course that really, focused on how to use communication to engage on issues like gender, poverty, issues that affect people at the lower level and just bringing them on board and everything. And so I liked that course very much. And then as I, graduated from school, I found out that it was actually a whole course that you could study on its own, at the master's level and all that. So I'd always nursed that dream. Even when I was in my HR career, always nursed the dream. And so, yes, when Juyin came along, I just said, okay, communication for development. And then I started looking at the different
options,
names, right? And options that schools called it. And why I chose the one at Sussex was because it was very practical and I needed something. I mean, I had done mass communication, right? I needed something that would teach me how to actually, implement this on a practical scale.
Yeah.
So I was doing things like documentaries, very hands-on.
Yeah.
That's why I actually chose the course at Sussex.
That is very explosive. Thank you for sharing. I'm glad that I asked that question because that really gives context to the conversation that we're about to have. And if it matters or anything, I'm going to share a little about mine as well. Just the way you said you stumbled into the sector, I literally stumbled into my course of first degree.
Okay.
Not the sector really.
Okay.
I when I was younger, I've probably said this in one of the previous or more episodes actually. I thought I was going to be a professional dancer. Like my life was so planned. I was so sure I was going to leave secondary school. I was going to go to art class, leave art class, go to study performing arts or creative arts, and then move from there, and then go to New York and train in Alvin Ailey, and then from there go to Broadway, become a professional dancer, win an Emmys and stuff like that. It was so planned, but I never went to art class. That was where the first thing. So, long story short, I went to commercial class and then I was like, okay, what is the nice thing they do in this commercial class? Business admin, banking and finance. And then I applied for business, the journey had changed at that point. And then I applied for business administration. And then I went to check my university's admission list and my name was in educational management. Literally, yes, it was in educational management. At the time, I never knew that there was a course like that.
Exactly.
So that was how I stumbled in educational management. Wanted to change the course. It never happened. Again, fate maybe. And then I found purpose in what I was doing. When I went on my first teaching practice, this was a Nigerian university, of course, went on my first teaching practice and I fell in love with teaching young people in rural communities. And I was like, I want to do this. Created a project, started a project, and I was running that, for a very long time. And then the project morphed into my NGO, which I started at 18 or so at the time. And, that journey, by the time I graduated, I was like, the same thing that happens to a lot of people, that confusion that comes from when you've graduated and you don't know, do I do this course? Should I get a job? Should I get married? Should I do this? And all of that. And I was like, should I go back and do theater? Should I go and do mass comm? Should I do law again? Like things like that. But, after working now I've started working as a student counselor and working in the sector for a while, I realized that this is where I'm meant to be. You understand? But I needed to find a course. Now, remember how that journey had come? I needed to find a course that blends my background in education with my passion for development, the work I was already doing with young people, running my NGO and all of that. So like you, Juyin, I went online, I put education and development, masters, and then I found international education and development.
Really?
That was how I found my course.
Fantastic.
Yeah. That was how I found my course. So just to give that context, and I think it's one of the things, because we can look back now and reflect on our courses, choices, and we can say, okay, this was really tied to what I want to do, what I really want to build for myself in terms of future prospect. And one of the things that is missing. So now let's talk about that, Juyin. I'll come to you first. How do you think that people or students or people who are seeking to study, whether most likely international, right, seeking overseas education, how do they balance the decision between profitability and purpose, in choosing the right course that is fit for their career?
Well, thankfully we're in an age where, Google is your best friend. So I would say that there's a lot of research that goes into that. First, researching the courses that are available. But maybe first, researching yourself. Who are you as a person, right? What are the things that drive you? What are the things that make you tick? For me, I tell people that if you cut through me, you probably see communications. But one other thing is that I'm also really passionate about helping people find jobs. And so I'm very happy that I'm at a place in my career now that I can actually do both. It's something that gives me a lot of joy because, people say, oh, you can't, have it all. But as much as possible, we can strive to do that. So find out what it is that makes you tick.
Yeah.
And then look for courses around those. We've both shared examples of how we literally just went to Google and just typed in whatever it is. one thing I know about universities abroad generally is that as far as your mind can think, there is a course for it.
True.
And so if you have interest in, I'm sure if you probably Googled when you were interested, maybe education and dancing, you might have found a course for that, right? So, I mean, after you've researched yourself, research what are the courses that speak to you as a person, speak to what you want to do, you know, what you're currently doing, what you intend to do in the future, and see how you can marry this. And this is also one of the questions that tends to come up in Juyin, right?
Yeah.
They ask you, what is your future, you know, career goal and all that. And what they want to see is a link between what you're doing now and what it is you want to do, and how that course that you want to study helps you to achieve that. So I'll give an example. I had somebody who I was counseling for Juyin, and, you know, she had studied an environmental related course. I can't remember what it was, and then had worked in banking for a long time. And she said, I want to do a master's in environmental management or something. And I said, how does it tie into what you're doing now? You're a marketer in a bank. How does it tie? And she said, that, you know, she's always wanted to do that. That's why she studied the course. And that's where, you know, she sees herself in future. I said, but you see, if you look at it, that's what you studied. But over time now, you've worked in banking for maybe 5-7 years. There's a clear departure from that. So if you tell Juyin that you want to study environmental management, they're looking at it like, what's the relationship? So there has to be something that you have been doing, even if it's on the side. Say you were doing, you know, environmental consultancies or something like that, things that show that even if it's not your main course, there is still a passion that you're nursing on the side. So I feel like getting to know yourself is very important, and then getting to know the courses that speak to you. When I read about media practice for development and social change, I mean, I had read about, you know, communication for development in different universities. When I read it, I said, this is the course. So there's a place you will get to and be like, this is it. My search is over.
Yeah. I really love what you said, and I agree with you. Again, just to buttress that, when I found that course, I actually found the course in 2012. I think. Yeah, 2012 was when I found that course. When I found the university, and I was like, this is it. I did not study that course until 2019.
7 years
you know,
later.
7 years later. But I held on to that dream, just like you held on to the dream of Juyin since 1997. And, you know, and that's very true, because you find there are sometimes that you're looking for something and then you find it and like, this is it. And you hold on to it for as long as you can. Now, Okpe, I'm going to ask you again, now switching it to the other side, especially with the work that you do in student recruitment. What do you think that students should look out for when seeking a course to study overseas, right? Like Juyin said earlier, that for as wide as you can think of, there is that course. What should students look out for when thinking of a course to study overseas, especially as it ties to what she said about career prospects, post-graduation, post-study opportunities, and all of that?
I genuinely think that I would like to emphasize that there is absolutely nothing wrong with wanting profitability where your passion lies.
Yeah.
Be okay with it. Nothing is wrong with you. And I would like to also say that there is a point you get to where you begin to understand that you need to find the intersection between what you love and what does the world need.
True.
Do you see? For example, you study mass communication to some extent. Is a course that sounds really fancy, you know, and is quite respected in a place that we are in Nigeria. So you need to understand that what is trending here may not necessarily be trending in the US or in the UK, in Canada job market.
Yeah.
Especially in a place where there are immigration rules that applies. So, for example, somebody wants to do mass communication in a country like Nigeria. There's still prospects like you work in PR, you work in all of these places. Someone who has a passion, for example, for, say, writing, you have a passion for writing, you don't necessarily have to end up like another Chimamanda or Stephen King. You can translate that into UI UX writing. You can enter into PR and communications. You can, there's so many, content strategy is another thing you want to look at. Secondly, you are somebody who, let me bring it up from something less artistic, environmental science. Right? You want to combine a course like that with data analytics or sustainable management, you know, and when you get into places like that, for organizations that are probably into ESG efforts. That's ESG is like organizations solving social issues. And governance issues. The market is wide. Do you see? So after you're studying what you're studying, I love that you love that course. I love that you enjoy that course. You have that interest in that course, but don't neglect the world outside the classroom.
True.
You have to think ahead of what is ahead. So it's something that I really want to emphasize.
Yes.
So find the intersection between what you love and what does the world need.
I also want to say that many times, a university degree is something that teaches you applied thinking. And sometimes what you study, I mean, we have so many examples what you study may not necessarily translate to what you are doing at the end of the day, but your ability to apply that knowledge to different situations. For example, the first set of people to start doing content writing and so did not necessarily study that because there was not a course like that, right? When the whole social media world was coming up. But maybe they studied mass communication, maybe they studied law, or they studied any course that had a lot of writing involved. I'm just saying that there's the place for you to be able to apply, to be able to switch that knowledge into whatever it is that is relevant, what the world is asking for, as she said.
I agree with you. I totally agree, and I'm an embodiment of that because I remember one of my first classes in Nigeria, studying educational management, and one of my lecturers would say to us in class that the concept of management is the same. It is the application that differs. At the time, I used to think that, she's just trying to make us feel good, that we're not just a do. I thought,
oh my God, that thing annoyed me.
Exactly. I thought she was just trying to make us feel good. But now I see that, because I'm into business management. I'm into education management. I'm also into event management, if you can. I'm doing a lot of management across different sectors, and it's the experience from that course that really helps me. I want to come back to you, Okwe, before I go to Juyin, which is because you've talked about from the angle of balancing between passion, purpose, profitability in choosing courses, and you talked about looking ahead, But what are some of the common mistakes that you think that people do or make in the process of trying to choose a course?
Family expectation. I feel like in this side of the world, when you're going to school abroad, it's a family project. It's not just you. You have your uncle telling you tech is the future. You have your dad telling you medicine is the course that sounds so serious.
I want to be a father of a doctor.
I want to be a father of a doctor.
And mostly it's for them, for their ego sometimes, not necessarily because the child wants to do it.
Yeah.
So I think one major mistake that they make is going with, family expectations. My uncle wants me to do this. And I know many people who are now stuck, with something they don't love. I have a very close friend of mine who studied pharmacy in the UK. Right now, as a last year, resigned her job and said, you know what, I want to cook. I've always wanted to be a chef. And that's what she's doing now. So why did you do pharmacy like all these years? It's like, my dad wanted it. I did it for them. Now I can face my life. And that's I look at it and I'm like, and so that's one major mistake I know that people make is being addicted to family expectations. Sometimes when you don't know your why, the clarity is what brings confidence to be able to stand your ground and say, you know what, I want to do this and I'm going to do this. Second thing that I think is a common mistake that I see people make is that they don't research country-specific trend. Do you see? If you look at a country like Germany or Netherlands, one common course that people love in this side of the world is petroleum engineering. That's because of the connection to the oil sector. But when you look at it, you don't just say, I'm going to America to study petroleum engineering. You have to look at what are the countries that, when I'm done, what gives me the opportunity to stay back? What gives me the opportunity to work there? What gives me the opportunity to... So a country like Germany, you want to study a course like renewable energy. You want to look at a country like Netherlands, Germany, right? So I think that some of the things that I see happen in this side of the world is that we don't do research enough. We don't do research enough, and that's a problem. And I'm going to say this last one as a common mistake as well. When you're choosing a course, go to the university website and read the curriculum. There are courses that are industry specific. There are courses that are literally theory based.
Mm.
Do you see, for example, in CSU, there's impact MBA, there is MBA.
Yeah.
Anybody who doesn't do research, you just say impact MBA is just there. So you just go for MBA. But impact MBA is more industry focused and the perks are different.
Yeah.
So sit down, do your research and ensure you know what you're going for. So I think for me, that's like the top 3 mistakes I see people make.
I really, really like that. The things that you said. I don't know if Juyin wants to add anything.
I do, actually.
Okay.
Because a lot of, I mean, just to stress the family expectations thing. I mean, several years after I got Juyin, somebody, I can't even remember how he was introduced to me, but, you know, he had gotten Juyin and he had gotten an opportunity to do I think a PhD in the US or something. And so he was talking to me, okay, I have these 2 options. I don't know which to go for. So I said, okay, what are you thinking about them? And he's like, oh, my daddy said, my uncle said, my sister, and, you know, just listed my friends, my teachers and everything. And after he told me everything, I said, okay, what do you actually want? And, you know, he kept quiet for a while and he's like, you know, I actually haven't thought about that. I said, you need to know what you want. You are the one that is going to live. You are the one that will study that course. You are the one that will live with the, you know, the consequences or whatever. You are the one that will live with the degree. Let me put it that way, right? And so long after your father, your uncle, and everybody that has expectations of you are gone, what do you want to say? Do you want to say, okay, I did this for me, I'm enjoying it and all that? And so what I asked him to do was do something called a cost-benefit analysis of each of the options that you have. It sounds very grand, but it's actually a very simple thing. What is it going to cost you to do this course in terms of not just the financial cost now? If, for example, I'm going to do a course abroad, I'm going to have to leave my job, you know, no salary. Oh, I'm getting a scholarship so that I can take care of the salary. I'm going to have to, you know, travel to a place I do not know, live with foreigners, you know, lots of things. I said, do the cost and what are the benefits, of course, for each of these. When you see what it's going to take from you and what it is going to add to you, do that and then compare at the end of the day, so that way it helps you. Not now your family, but it helps you to make a choice that is more informed, that is more, if you like, less subjective, right? To help you to really take the best decision in your own interest.
Yeah. Those are very, very profound thoughts that you've shared, especially in terms of, you know, finding you. And you started by talking about doing a research about not just the course, but about yourself. Who are you? What makes you tick? You know, those kind of things are what really guides you in choosing the course for you. And you, what you said earlier about researching not just the course, but also reading models, understanding.
You know, that curriculum thing, it's a good thing she said.
Yeah.
I remember when I was going to go for Juyin, I was like, I mean, somebody is paying, right? So let me just choose any course. I was looking for, you know, expensive courses and all that. And I particularly remember looking at a course in one of the top 2 universities in the UK. It was a nice course that, you know, I could have done.
Yeah.
But as I read the curriculum, I found out that every time I read that syllabus, I was always yawning. And I told myself, if I'm yawning, reading, as in like
the model.
And I will this and say, okay, I'm tired today. And another day, whether I open it in the morning or in the afternoon or in the evening, I was always yawning. So I said, if I'm yawning while reading a 3-page or a 4-page document, what is going to happen to me
when you're doing
over the course of 1 year?
Yeah.
So I just respected myself. Meanwhile, why was I thinking about the school? Because my mom wanted one of her children to go to one of the top two universities. And even when I told her about Sussex, you know, and all of that. Yeah. So it's something that you always need to remember. Yes, the expectations, but what would work for you?
True. Thank you very much for that. And I'm going to just still stay with you, Juyin, because of your work, you know, with Temploy, and you've worked with a lot of young people who are seeking jobs. I'm sure some of them have probably studied abroad, you know, or some of them are looking to study abroad. How do you think that young Africans, and not just Nigerians now, young Africans, how can we future-proof our careers or our choices of courses, you know, especially in this world where there's a constant change in expectations in the job market, you know, because just a few years back, you would not say oh, I'm a content creator, you know, or I'm a digital marketer, or I'm UI UX designer. You know, some of us, it took us a while to understand what UI UX really means, you know, but how do we future-proof our careers so that the course that we're choosing today is not after 1 year or 2 years becomes irrelevant. How do you think in the lens of HR?
I will go back to what Okoyemi said about, finding the intersection between the passion, the purpose and the profitability.
Yeah.
Again, there's something that I would never stop talking about: applied knowledge. You see a pharmacist today who can become, the cook of tomorrow or the chef of tomorrow. And so I would say that when people are in class, open up your mind.
Yeah.
Right? You are studying pharmacy. You're doing a master's in pharmacy. And for example, all my 3 degrees are in communications. Mass communication, communication and change management, media practice for development and social change. But today I'm doing human resources and I'm still doing communications. So the most important thing is to realize that the world is evolving. So if I'm able to apply the knowledge that I gain within the university class, and don't just focus on the course. Also interact with people. That's very important. Get to know your environment. Sometimes it is in walking by one countryside that you will find one epiphany, right? And then you just see, I can do this, I can do that. Some of the things that we call even jobs today were a joke before. Like you tell your parents you want to become, I don't even know, a chef. They'll look at you like, are you okay? But now being a chef there's so much prestige.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
with it. Even music, a lot of courses that were looked down upon. Yeah, fashion.
Look at fashion in Nigeria.
Exactly. And the people that are doing it, how many of them actually studied fashion? So that's why I'm saying that there is, for me, I believe that there's profit in a lot of endeavor.
Yeah.
It's just for you to open your mind and not stick to the theoretical, because university education can be very theoretical.
Yeah.
I'm happy a lot of things are changing, and so people are increasingly infusing, practicality into a lot of the courses. But do not stick to the theory of the course, of the courses that you are studying. Look at the practical aspect, interact with people. People are thinking about things that you are good for, that you haven't even thought about.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is in conversations that you actually hear about such things.
So good.
Yeah. Very good. I agree. There are 2 things that I think that I also just want to add, because you both have spoken excellently about, this idea of future-proofing careers and choosing the right course and, finding your way around things. The first is also in terms of balance, capacity.
Yeah.
Many times people don't think about their capacity. It also goes back to them finding themselves. But what can you really do? There are some people that comes to us to ask for certain courses, and then you check their transcripts, and then they've done intro to that thing and they didn't do well. But because somebody else has asked for that course, there was a time, in the sector, you would probably relate to this. There was a time that almost 80% of everyone that comes to our desk wants nursing, adult nursing, mental health nursing. And you'll be wondering from where to where, and then later it was data science. Later it was social work. Later now it's cybersecurity, and then you look at people's capacity. Some of them would go and do data science. And there are options. Universities have some options for social science. So you come with arts and humanities, take this one. You come from science, engineering, take this one.
Yeah.
But people will say, oh no, I want that one. They will do it and get it. By the time they get it, they are struggling with statistics. They are struggling with maths. I think that in choosing courses as well, is also very important to think about capacity, but also, relevance. The second thing I wanted to talk about is relevance. That course you're doing, how relevant is it? Because now we see a lot of people for the UK, for example, asking about MRES. But is MRES actually relevant to you as a person?
Exactly.
So these are some of the things that I think we should ask. As we begin to wrap up this conversation, right? We've talked about family pressure and all of that. We've talked about, the challenges. But I want to ask you, is there any course, the big question of the day, is there any course that you would say is most lucrative? And I'll start from you, Ope, and then I'll ask you to speak on it, because you deal with students on a daily basis. You deal with people when they've graduated. So let's start with you, Ope. Would you say that there are certain courses that are more lucrative than the other in the world that we're currently living in? Or is there something else that people should be doing when choosing that course and ensuring that, their future is secure and they have a kind of profitable future ahead of them?
I mean, I just really want to bring healing to the mind of somebody. Do not think that whatever you want to study because it doesn't sound popular, there is no room for you there, or there is no prospects for you there. Genuinely, I feel like if you can really research, sit down and understand how exactly you want to go about what you want to do, there's a room for you somewhere. It might be tough. You might not know how. You might feel alone at first, but I believe so strongly there's room for you. But to answer your question, when I'm talking from the standpoint of study abroad now.
Yeah.
So now I understand that there are probably people watching right now. You want to study in the UK, US, Australia, Canada. You have to check for what... I mean, like, I don't just want to lean on just passion. Genuinely, I also want to talk about profitability because at the end of the day, we want to live a good life and it is towards all of these things. So it is crucial that you understand, okay, looking at what I love to do, right, and what the world needs. I'm going back to that thought. What exactly do I want to do? For example, I think recently I read about people who study nursing in Australia. People studying nursing in Australia earn, I don't know if I'm up to...
So maybe some cases change.
Okay. Right. So, and they have opportunity to stay back, residency, even after they're done with their studies. So you want to look at that, right? For example, there's really any company right now who does not need a tech talent. Do you see? And at the same time, as much as I'm quite uncomfortable with it when people say tech is the future, it's good, I agree. But if you're not inclined towards it, it is okay. And be satisfied with it. Be okay with it. Yeah. Right? So I think that, of course, tech is everywhere you go. They need a data scientist, someone in cybersecurity, somebody, UI, UX designer. So I think so strongly a country like the US is always on the lookout for tech talents like that. The UK, for example, I think because of the aging population, there is need for people in the health sector, doctors, and all of those things. So I believe so strongly that health is another thing that you want to look at. Engineering as well. I mentioned Germany and also Netherlands. So it's okay for you to, it's important that you understand what exactly you want to do, what country, right, exactly is loud about that aspect. Most Western countries are pivoting into green technology, right? So you want to look at that US is popular, but that may not be the way for me for the course I'm studying. So, pretty much. I feel like my thoughts are everywhere. But...
No, they're not everywhere. And I think I like the fact that you've touched on how it reflects different countries'
there's lots
needs,
of things that
and there's a lot of things, like you say, it's all rises and falls or rise and falls on research, researching yourself, knowing where you fit in the global picture. And again, thinking about your capacity. Let me not lead into what you want to say, but let's hear from you.
When she says tech is the future, people have been saying tech is the future. I think sense is the future.
Ooh, I like that.
Because anything you do, whether it is tech or engineering or everything you've mentioned, it is that sense that will help you to excel. In fact, to carve a niche for yourself in that particular future. People are excelling in things that we thought were ridiculous, right? And I just feel like, now we talk about AI and now they're saying AI is the future. AI cannot do everything.
True.
So, and I tell people that what is the A in AI? Artificial. What is the synonym of artificial? Fake, not genuine, right? So it means that whatever it is something that is trying to mimic the human intelligence, which means that you are already above. Are you aware that you are above AI? Because if you are not, then you would subject everything you do to AI. And what that means for me is that you are really, there's nothing wrong with AI, but you're really reducing your intelligence because AI is trying to catch up with you. And it is that sense that you have that AI is trying to get. So I feel like the ability to apply sense to everything that you're doing, whatever course, and it goes to what you're saying about, finding out what is big in one country and everything. There are people that you call them the early adopters. Once they see that, you spoke about green technology, I'm doing some communications work in that regard, and I'm reading so much about e-mobility, and I'm like, wow, how is it that in Nigeria this thing is still upcoming? Because you see, engineers that go into that field right now, the whole world is going green.
Yeah.
You hear a lot of talk about climate action and everything, and that is the future.
Yeah.
And there are so many benefits to that because it reduces our dependence on fuel. It's good for the environment and everything, and just generally calming things down in terms of costs. I mean, because fuel impacts a lot of things. The people that are sensible enough to realize that, let me cash into that opportunity now, they'll be reaping fantastic rewards in 2 to 5 years.
Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing that. And I think those are very, very relevant, important thoughts that you've also shared. But I also just want to give that angle of, things like what you said earlier, from fashion to entertainment.
Yeah.
Look at what entertainment is now, even in Africa, and it's very important to have that knowledge, that experience, that expertise, in that area as well. So for me, I think that the beyond the science, the tech, the health, all of those, arts also has an important place, because the more we engage with technology, the more we want to connect with nature to find that balance in our heads,
with each other.
And with each other as well. Entertainment in Africa, fashion, everything is growing, even football, so I think it's really important to bear those in mind. And thank you very much for sharing. Just final thoughts in maybe a few seconds. Just want to ask you, what is your advice for someone who, and I like how you said it, I want to bring peace, or I want to set some to the mind of someone thinking about this, but let's keep going. So what I want to ask is, just on a final note, what is that advice that you give to someone who is about to choose a course right now and, are confused about the relevance or the importance of choosing that course for their future? Just in a few seconds.
Find out what works for you. And if you're not sure whether it works for you, if you're able to get internship opportunities in that field so that you can even try it out to see if it's something that you want to go into for the long term. I think that helps before you then, decide on studying such a course to learn more about it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay.
I think I would say that choose for your future. Choose for vision, not for survival.
Yeah.
I understand, like, the country, the side of the world we are in, like, people just want to go out there. I want to be able to, like, earn some studying to fend for my family, things like that. But I genuinely think that you don't just want to ask, what course do I want to study? You also want to ask, who do I want to become? Ask the deeper questions, because the course you study at the end of the day has a lot to do with the trajectory of your life, the nearest future. Sure. So you want to ensure that you're asking the deeper questions. Who do I want to become at the end of the day? So I think pretty much that would be my advice.
Thank you very, very much. And I think that's a very good way to end this conversation. Think not only for yourself, think for impact, think for relevance, think for, not just sustenance, but really passion and all of that. So thank you very much, Juyin Benson, founder and CEO, my friend, from Temploy, Nigeria, and of course, Okweyemi Adetola, Regional Manager, West Africa at Colorado State University. It's been really amazing chatting with you. All right, guys, and I hope that you've had a great time listening to this chat. This is where we talked about choosing the most lucrative course to study abroad. And this is for the sake of those who are considering studying abroad, for, building a better career, better future for themselves. And for me on this chat, some things have come out very strongly. The first and the major thing is really about balance, finding that balance between profitability, between passion, between purpose, but also finding that balance between your capacity and the future relevance of what you're going to study. And I hope that you've enjoyed this chat, this conversation as we have. If you have, please do like, share, and comment on this episode. We'd also like you to please subscribe to the channel to watch some of our past episodes and future episodes as well. We'd also like to hear from you. If you have any thoughts in terms of what you would like us to discuss or what we can improve upon, please do send us an email. You can see the email address on the screen right now. Until the next time when I shall be back again with an amazing set of guests. My name is Louis Adekola, and this is TINE Africa Podcast, the new sound of international education in Africa. Goodbye.